Hello again. So today going to be fixing a shower. This is a mixer shower, thermostatic mixer, and what's happening is that it's running cold. Slowly it went from being warm and you have to turn it up and up and up and up, and eventually it's got to a point where it virtually got it on full hot and it's only just warm enough. If we leave it a bit longer, it'll go completely cold. Sometimes the symptom is that it just goes cold and it won't work, and usually the culprit is the O-rings inside the thermostatic mixer. So for this one, that's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to take the O-rings out and replace them. Now, before you do that, you need to check first of all that you've actually got hot water coming to the thing, because it could be that your hot water's out. I'm okay with this one because there's another shower on the circuit and that one's running fine, so I know there's hot water. Otherwise, you can feel the tank, make sure there's hot water comes to it, feel around where your hot water is normally generated, because obviously there's no point fixing the shower if there's no hot water to it. So let's sort this. So the first and probably the most important thing is to turn off the water. Now, I'm lucky with these ones. When I installed the shower, I made sure to put these full flow valves in, so there's a full bore and they'll let the water through. So all I need to do is to turn these to off like that, and that's the water off to the shower. You might find that you haven't got these, in which case you're going to have to turn off the main water and then find out where the hot water is coming in and turn off the hot water cylinder. But somehow you need to isolate the shower. Okay, so once we've isolated it, never trust it, always test. So I'm turning the shower on, no water is coming out. So I'm pretty sure I've isolated that and I've accidentally switched off the wrong thing. So we're good to go there. First thing to do is to get these controllers off. Usually an Allen key somewhere. This one's got a little hole in the back, so I just undo those and it should just pop off a bit more. There's one. And there's the other one. So the next step, it's the thermostatic bit I'm looking at, and we need to take these little brass things off, and all we'll do is just a screw there. I can undo the screw. There's a little washer inside, and once we take that off, we try to drop it down the plug hole, and it should just come off. Now, this one is marked with a little red mark, and there's a little red mark above it here. So I'm looking at that and make sure that first of all I'm lining up the red marks so I can put it back in exactly the same way. Otherwise it's going to be hot and cold in the wrong places. So it's lined up the red marks and I pull it straight off, put it with its washer, put that somewhere safe. So once you've got the handles off, next job is to get this faceplate off so that you can get to the thing underneath it. Now they vary, so some have screw holes in them, some are silicone to the wall. This is silicone to the wall. Some you undo these things and it comes off. This one, in fact, this one just rotates. With this one, in fact, unscrews this top one, so I can unscrew that, and then that should just then pull out. You see it's on an O-ring, so an O-ring in here, so it pulls out. Next thing, so that's free at the top, and all we need to do is now lever it away from the wall very gently. Just gently, you don't want to crack the tiles, but you should find it just comes away like this. There we go. And then you can actually pull some of the other bits out as well. And then this, here we go. Comes away and we can get to the shower underneath. So once we've got access to the underneath bit, I can remove the flow valve if I need to, which is this one. And to get to the thermostatic valve, in this case there's a screw. Now some of them, especially the brass ones, there's a great big nut that you undo with a spanner. In this case I can just undo this one. And there we go, there is a washer and a securing ring, and then here is the actual valve. So here's the valve that we're trying to get out now. It needs to pull out, but obviously it'll probably be a bit stiff in there after some time. So you can get a pair of these on it and just give it a pull. And there we go, it's come out. Now I should add at this point that these two screws here are used for cutting off the water. So if you can't isolate your shower elsewhere, you can use these two. You basically screw these screws all the way in and then it should work. And the way to test is screw them in, so you won't be able to unscrew this top one in this case. If you unscrew the top one and you've still got water pressure, that will come flying out and you'll get very, very wet. So leave that in, tighten these two screws up, and then before you do it, I mean I did this before when I isolated it elsewhere, switch it on and see if water comes out. If it works like a normal shower, it's not isolated, don't take these off, isolate it first. Otherwise, screw these in, try it again. As long as no water comes out, then you're good to go. Now there's been a bit of a mess of silicone made here. Best way to get it off is one of these razor blades, and all you need to do is run it along there and you can see immediately it's starting to come off. You can buy all sorts of solvents and things that will help as well, but you don't really need it. You can use WD-40, that tends to take it off quite well as well at the end. So the thing to do is get as much off as you can with a blade and then clean it up with some solvent. You can use acetone, you can use WD-40. WD-40 can be quite hard to get off again. Acetone's good, which is nail polish remover, you can pick it up. But let's carry on with this. So now that I've got the thing out, brought it down to the garage, I'm going to take it to bits and get to those O-rings that I told you about. So first things first, get this little circlip off. There we go, just take one screwdriver and you can just ping that circlip off. There we go, comes off. Next thing, if we flip it over, you can see that there's a sort of a spanner shape in the top. What I need to do is undo that. So if I pop it into a vise down here, like that, just very gently. Remember it's plastic, so I don't want to break it. And then all we can do is get a big spanner, voila, pop that on there, and we should be able to undo that. That was come off quite easily, and then that unscrews. So once it's loose, I can now undo it. Now I'm going to be careful because there's going to be a great big spring in here, so just very carefully undoing it. And there we go, not too bad. And the spring and the end bit should come off. Put that down, and then I can withdraw this bit. And finally, that should allow me to push this last bit out. So then this last bit left in, I can turn this round to its fullest extent and then just push. And there we are, that bit comes out as well. And put that down over there, and immediately we can see where the problem lies. And again, I can undo this bit, this little insidey bit there, and then I'm left with the O-rings, and they go in here. So I don't know if you can see that, but this O-ring on the outside, see, completely and utterly disintegrated. So there's obviously the problem. There's another one here as well, and what I'll do is just get some new O-rings of the same size, and I'll replace both of those so that they're both fixed, and then we can put it all back together again. So putting it back together, starting off with a bit with the new O-rings in, screw it onto this thing. Now it's a reverse thread, and this is the bit that goes in and out as you adjust the thermostat. Okay, so that's in. Now we can put that back into the shell, so just poke that back down where it came from, like that, so it's all the way in. Then we have this next little bit that came out, put that back in the same way we got it out, and that goes in like that. Finally, spring-loaded cap goes on, push it in, do it up, there we go, and I can just tighten it a little bit with a spanner just to be on the safe side, and there we are. That's now working. You should be able to turn that, it should go in and out. Finally, if we tighten it to there, we just put the circlip on. There's a little there's a little ridge you can see that the circlip fits into, so we'll just pop that in there. Okay, and then I'll squeeze it with a pair of pliers and that'll clip into place. So here we go, put the pliers on it, and there we go, that's in. Now what I forgot to mention, well, when you're putting this back together again and you're putting the O-rings in it, we need to add some of this silicone grease. Now don't be tempted to use something like Vaseline because it will rot the seals and you'll have to do it again. So the proper silicone stuff, and you put it on the very small amount on the O-rings, and then the whole thing will slide back together much more easily. Okay, so that's done. Let's go and put it back in the shower. Now we can start to put it back together again. So if you've had the on-off cartridge out, you'll see that it's got a lug at the bottom and some things, and that matches what's in there. So as you put it in, you can twist it and you can feel when it's located properly, and then we can add the little screw threaded thing that holds it in place, the locking ring, whatever you call it. Give that a bit of a tighten. Okay, that's nice and solid now. Next step is to fix one of these back in again. Now it locates, there's a little nick here and a little grub screw on this. I don't really see the point of the grub, so it doesn't seem to do much. You can screw it in and out, but it was loose when I fetched it out. If you do know, perhaps you can leave a comment to tell me what it is. But it's screwed in to about where it was when it came out. And the idea is we're just going to push that back in, but I'm going to apply some more of this silicone grease. There's O-rings on here, so I want to grease them so that it goes back in without wrenching the O-rings out. So a bit of that. And then onto the O-rings, any bits that are going to slide, particularly this one at the front, and then we can pop that back in, back to where it was, and then push it in, and we should be able to push that into place. There we go. So that's gone all the way in. I felt it click as it went in. No, not click, it felt it kind of a thud as it went in. So that's good. Now we can fix that back on. So the fix is back in place. The washer goes on there. This goes on top. And then this does up and holds the whole thing in place. So make sure the washer's located properly. I can screw that up. And that's pretty much finger tight, but make sure you get all the silicone off your fingers and then give that a final tighten. And finally we can put this thermostat ring thing back in. Again, it's marked at the top where it was, where it came out, and you'll see it's got grooves in the bottom, and those grooves locate into the thermostat thing, so that pushes in there. Get it the right way up and we should be able to push that in until it stops. You should feel that it's stopped on those grooves. Now if you've got this in the right place, you should get full movement. So there's a little lug that goes against the stop there. You should be able to turn this all the way around and get full movement so it touches the stop both sides, and that's if you've got the thing in the right way. If it doesn't, then you need to take it out and then adjust the thing, put this thing back on so that it's in the right place. So that's stopped against full hot. So then you take your control knob, and that's in full hot, so we put this to where we want it to be when it's full hot. Let's say it's about there. It's around about where it used to be. Now obviously if things are marked, if you've got one of those where it's marked on the actual thing, the temperatures, then you need to adjust it, and you might need to start measuring the temperature. But that should give me full cold there, full hot there. So it normally sits about there. That's done. And then we have the next one in, and this goes directly upwards. Because that's in the middle, and then it switches from side to side. In this particular one, it's a dual supply one. Screw that in. And there we should have control either side. So that is good to go. Now you might be wondering, why have I put it on the handles without putting the back plate on? Well, the reason for that is I want to apply water pressure to it now, and I need to look behind and just make sure that nothing's leaking. Once the plate's on, I can't tell. I could have a drip of water dropping down inside the wall, and I wouldn't know until the kitchen ceiling fell down. So by doing like this, I'll apply water pressure, and then I'll check it's not leaking, and then I'll leave it for a few hours, and then I'll come back and I'll check there's no water leaking out of it. If there's no water, pop the handles off, put the back plate back on, and it's good to go. So let's turn the water back on. So the water's back on. One good indicator that the pump's not running, so that's good. I'm checking, and I'm not finding any water around where I've been messing. So I'm going to leave that for an hour or so, and I'm going to come back and just check there's no water dripping out. Now I've left this for a couple of hours. I've tested it. I've had warm water running through it, warm and cold. That's all going fine. If you find that the water won't go hot or it won't go cold, you can try moving the little lock ring. If you didn't mark it properly in the first place, you might find it's moved a little bit. So if it's running too hot, take the lock ring out, turn it around to full cold, put the lock ring back again. You should find it's a lot better. So, final bit, got my plate to put back on, and what I've done is put a line of silicone around it. Not too much, I don't want it to be squodging out and making a big mess everywhere, but I do want it to seal all around here so I don't get water going in. Now, water's not playing on this from the shower, but it is likely to splash onto it, so I just want to make sure that it's the right way around. And make sure I get this the right way around. And we've just got one go at putting it on. There we go. And these row rings on here, so this should just push in. There it goes. And so far no silicone on my hands. That won't last. Push it in place. Okay. And that's done, and you can see I've got a little bit of squeeze out there, so I can fix that. So I'll take one of these, which is like one of the world's most brilliant tools. Basically a sort of rubber thing on a stick. It's really good for silicone, not so much for flat silicone here, but when you're doing corners and things, it's fantastic, makes a really nice job. So on here, I just run that down there, and you'll see it's completely got that silicone off. And there it is. So that's really good. And that is looking okay. And then I'm going to leave that for maybe 24 hours so that the silicone completely sets, so it doesn't wash away with the water. Put the knobs back on, and we're done. So again, these two just go back on in exactly the same way as they came off. Make sure they're lined up properly. In this case, that one goes there, pointing upwards. This one, because I've set it to around about full cold, I can select where I want this to be at full cold, and I'm going to have it all the way down like this. And then all you do up the little grub screws, and we're good to go. There's one. Because what you can do is turn these so that you can get to them with the easier end. However, I'd get wet if I turned it. So there we are. That's done up. Double check this one. That's done. And ready to go. So I hope you found that helpful. Fairly cheap to fix a shower. Don't need to spend too much money, and not too much time either. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, I might see you next time.